Hi everybody, this is Chuck Moore. I want to give you guys a quick heads up on what to expect. This is my first video. We will see how this goes. But I would like to offer a very quick review of Lesson 2. Of course, we covered the things over my left shoulder here. We covered the executive branch of government contrasted with the legislative branch of government, and what the differences are between those two branches of government, how they serve the military. Additionally, we talked about the National Security Council and the primary components of that, who is involved and what they do. Vice President, Secretary of Defense, Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of State, as well as the National Security Advisor, kind of the key players of the National Security Council and what they do. Moreover, we talked about the level of guidance that they issue and they provide. Although it's not written up here on the whiteboard behind me, we discussed the National Security Strategy, which is published by the President's Office through the National Security Council. So the National National Security Strategy, which subordinate to that is the National Defense Strategy. Finally, we finish up with the National Military Strategy, which is written by the Chairman and Joint Chiefs of Staff. We kind of wrapped up class by talking about the ways that our nation kind of articulates the various levels of engagement or national security issues, starting with over on the left, vital issues. Those are issues that we are willing to go to war to, damn the consequences. We are willing to fight for those things. Secondarily would be important issues that we really need to cautiously balance the risk versus reward on whether we engage. And then lastly, we talked about peripheral issues, and those are things that, yeah, they're of value, but we're not willing to really engage on those very much. The textbook reading from Lesson 2, not textbook, the National War College Primer, which I said to read pages 1 through 6, if you actually read up through page 9, you'll get a better explanation of these three terms over here. Okay, so break. Moving on to Lesson 3. This could be my favorite lesson to teach in the entire block just because I think it's fascinating. It's more political science-y, if you will, but it has direct implications of what we're doing as a military. So the reading is really, it's chapter 1 of this book. You, of course, do not have this book, but you have the PDF of the first chapter, which is posted on Blackboard. So in that book, the author, Eliot Cohen, he really opens up the topic of hard power is what they call it. So when we're contrasting hard power and soft power, what we're really describing is violence being hard power, the pure use of military action to invoke violence on another nation, versus soft power, which is those softer, fuzzier things that we think of like economic sanctions or diplomacy. So we contrast hard power with soft power. So for Lesson 3, we will be unpacking some nuances with hard and soft power and what that exactly means. Additionally, we will be providing some insightful discussion on this book. In this book, the first chapter, the author addresses 5 commonly brought up points that some would say that we do not need hard power at all. Some say that our diplomatic efforts are sufficient and we should be able to solve all problems by talking through them. Some say that our economic sanctions, we can do the same thing with the economic sanctions or our economic lever in the DIME construct, and we don't need the military. Others would suggest our information instrument of national power is adequate, and we can achieve all of our required end states through that. So he unpacks 5 very specific arguments that people have tended to make over time. And then he comes back later in the chapter and he counters those arguments, offering a counterpoint. So ultimately, he's a proponent of what you would call the big stick. And he's describing the utility of the military as a whole, despite what we may think, despite our best intentions of maybe not use violence at any time. It is sometimes the only option, and he articulates why that is. So moving forward, as you do the reading, it's, again, one of the more dense readings. I think it's about 20 pages or so. Try to look. I'd recommend get your highlighter and try to isolate those 5 arguments and then go back and isolate those 5 counter arguments and understand that. We'll be meeting with the silver team on M3. So the blue teams stay home, engage in the discussion board. I'll try to provide some additional guidance on there, and we'll continue to work through this over time. So thanks for your patience as this semester unfolds. I appreciate your efforts. Enjoy the weekend.